Welcome to the Windrush Nation Heritage podcast with me, Mike Johnson, on Windrush Day, 22nd of June 2024. At the Royal National Hotel in Bloomsbury, London, 6 individuals were honoured with a Windrush Nation Award as part of the Windrush Day Thanksgiving gathering and the Windrush Nation Award ceremony. Following a Caribbean buffet, guests were treated to a series of speakers who shared the story of their families 4 or more generations since 1948. Here are a couple of the stories from Donald Douglas, but first of all, Reverend Dr. Trevor Adams.
I am going to provide the story of my family for the 100-year period that will include 5 generations. There's 5 generations of us that is alive. My starting point will be my parents' generation, and I will talk about their social class and their occupation and their contribution to our community. Then I will talk about myself, my background, and my social class and my contribution to our community. And then I'll talk about the next generation, the generations that followed me. First of all, my parents, my mother and my father came to the UK, came to Britain in 1961. My father came to further his study. His aspiration was to be a medical doctor. My mother came the same year, and her aspiration was to be a nurse. My father is in his 80s, and he is still doing what he eventually started to do, and that is to be a science teacher. So he didn't become a medical doctor, he became a science teacher. And in his mid-80s, he is still teaching science in the Caribbean. My mother did achieve her ambition, her aspiration to become a nurse. And like many of the folks from the Windrush generation, she contributed to being a nurse in the NHS. And she worked specifically with the elderly, geriatric field of nursing. So I would describe both of their class as professional class. In terms of contribution, my father used to teach children from our community in their home. He used to do tutoring, and this is back in the 1970s. My father used to tutor kids from our community in their home, and he also used to take us with him as well. So we benefited from the times that he would be teaching other children. My mother was involved with the partner. So she contributed, she was part of that movement of using the partner financial system. And in fact, she shared with me that she was involved with the partner system from back home. And that was how she funded her journey to Britain. So it wasn't the British government who sent the tickets and everything. It was very, very much my mother, like many folks from our community, funded their own voyage to the UK. In terms of myself, I hold many different roles. I came to Britain in 1968. I came to join my parents, 1968. As a youngster, my aspiration really was to be a lawyer. But before that, at age 15, funny enough, I wanted to be a priest. Don't ask me why, but age 15, I wanted to be a priest. And then 18, I wanted to be a lawyer. but I have combined my aspiration to be a priest with being a minister, my aspiration of being a lawyer. I've combined that with my role of being a minister in a form of advocacy and speaking on behalf of the voiceless and giving them a voice and bridging the different gaps within the community. So my role is very, very much, I would describe it as servant in different capacities. So minister, a lecturer, an advocate, facilitator, community facilitator, animator. Wherever there is a need, I will step in to use my talent, use my gifts to help develop and help build our community. Also involved with Reach Society as a project manager, spearheading the work in Luton around the Employability Day. And this year, 2024, we had our third Employability Day, and we are planning to have the fourth one next year. So that's my contribution to our community. Then we go to the next generation. I have a son, older son, and I have a daughter. My relationship with my oldest son is not as I would expect it or want it to be. But I will then go to my daughter. My daughter, she is also an educator. So in a sense, we are three generations of people involved in education. My daughter, she's worked with young people with challenging behavior. She's worked as an English teacher and as a drama teacher. Her contribution has been that she's worked with me on different projects such as the Black Boys Can project and working with young people who have been at risk of being excluded. She's also contributed by writing a play around knife crime, which she performed along with some of her fellow university students. My granddaughter on my son's side, she also works in education. She works with supporting children with learning needs, special educational needs within the school environment. In terms of her contribution, she hasn't really stepped out in that area as yet, and I say as yet because I'm sure she will do. And then, of course, I have her son, who is my great grandson, and of course, he's going to be 3 years old this year, and has yet to grow up and see his aspirations realized. And then I also have my other granddaughter, who is going to be 1 year next week. So that is a snapshot of my family story, and our contribution to the community as part of the Windrush legacy.
My name is Donald Douglas. The story of the Windrush generation starts with my family of over 4 generations, 100 years. My story starts with my father, Edmund Joseph Douglas, who came to the UK in 1955 at the age of 37, and he returned to Jamaica in 1992. In Jamaica, my dad owned a restaurant in Orange Street, downtown Kingston, Jamaica. He also had sheer ice and snowball carts, and as my mum puts it, one in every corner. One day, a friend of my dad said to him, "You have perseverance?" The next day, my dad wrote perseverance on his sheared ice and snowball carts. The children could not be bothered to say perseverance, so they called him Percy. My dad died in 1997, with most people only ever knowing him as Percy. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. I can't complete the list of business ventures my dad was engaged in, but he was only employed by someone else for 6 months of his life. He started importing West Indian foods in the UK in the 50s. He served our community. He had the first West Indian shop in South London, Bedford Hill, SW12. He had a mobile West Indian shop. He had a car mechanic. He boiled syrup and sold paraffin. He raised goats and chicken, yes, in Bedford Hill, Balham. We were a family of 6 children, and my mum was a stay-at-home mum. As children, second generation Windrush Nation, we had a variety of career paths, which included painting and decorating, boxing and boxing promotion, nursing, retail, musician, and youth community work. I started my career as a sheet metal worker and moved on to youth and community work, some 50 years plus in community development and housing, culminating in 15 years as a CEO of small housing associations. I'm currently involved in several charities contributing to the development of our community, and I am chair of the Association of Jamaicans UK Trust. I have 5 children, third generation Windrush Nation, the last of which had just graduated with a degree in filmmaking. The other 4 who also have degrees are gainfully employed. I have managed so far to get 2 of my children to make a voluntary contribution to the development of our community. My youngest daughter currently does a podcast called Ad Race. That's Fayola Douglas, where she interviews key figures from the advertising industry on how they are addressing diversity and inclusion. My middle daughter, who's a law partner at Amphlett Lissamore and is the lead on wills, probate, trusts, and power of attorney, is the Association of Jamaicans UK recommended lawyer on these matters. I have 8 grandchildren and counting, 4th generation Windrush Nation. My oldest grandchild, 16 years, and is currently engaged in her GCSEs. I've promised her £50 for every A to C grade. So despite having to spend a lot of money, I hope she gets many, many grades.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
Well, that could be a very expensive challenge for Donald, but we wish him well. And so we come now to the awards themselves, and to help make the presentations, I was joined by Mr. Mark Lomas, who is the head of culture for Lloyd's of London. The Windrush Nation Awards recognizes Colleen Amos, who with her sister Valerie Baroness Amos turned their passion for education and tackling underachievement into the catalyst for founding the Amos Bursary, and in the process of transformed the lives of hundreds of young people of British, African and Caribbean heritage who have academic ability to attend university but held back by other factors. Through their expert skills of bringing together elite universities and leading international firms providing internship and personal development programs, they have helped countless young people to secure professional careers and turning them into future leaders. Colleen Amos, everyone. Yes. Our next awardee. This day, this recognized by the government, is a big thing, and our awardee goes to Mr. Patrick Vernon OBE. Come on up. Come on up. Yes, yes. So his citation says the Windrush Nation Awards recognizes Patrick Vernon OBE for his social commentary and political activism as a Labour councillor in the London Borough of Hackney, and for developing and managing health and social care services, including mental health, public health, regeneration, and employment projects. He was appointed as an Officer of the Order of the British Empire, OBE, in 2012, birthday honors for services to the reduction of health inequalities for ethnic minorities. Patrick led a successful campaign for the 22nd of June to be recognized annually as Windrush Day, acknowledging the migrant community's contributions to the whole of UK society over several decades, and it was officially adopted by the British government in 2018. Patrick Vernon, everyone. Yes, sir. Lovely, sir. Lovely, 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 lovely. So our next awardee has been nominated by the Association of Jamaicans UK Trust. They have nominated Louis Sadler. So we want to call him up, give him a big hand. Come on up, sir. Come on up. So the Windrush Nation Awards recognizes him for his work in supporting the African, Caribbean, and dual heritage community for over 60 years. He has been instrumental in helping to acquire several buildings housing the Tooting Youth Project, the West Indian Association of Service Personnel, WASP, and the Abeng Center in 1973, now called Kirubu Center in Brixton. In the late 70s, he became chair of the Race Equality Council in Southwark, and between 2018 and 2023, he was chairman of Kiwanis UK. Mr. Sadler is currently vice chairman of the Association of Jamaicans UK Trust, which promotes the social, cultural, and economic interests of Jamaicans in the UK. Mr. Louis Sadler. Yes, sir. Whilst I get in that, let me invite up our next awardee, Professor Kevin Fenton, CBE. Give him a big hand, please. Yes. The Windrush Nation Awards recognizes Professor Kevin Fenton, CBE, for his work as a public health and infectious disease epidemiologist. He has worked successfully in health prevention and health improvement for more than 3 decades in Jamaica, the United States, and the UK, and is currently the Regional Director of Public Health England and the Regional Director of Public Health for NHS London. As President of the Faculty of Public Health, he is leading the charge in setting the standards for public health specialists in the UK. We salute him for his drive for improving health and tackling inequalities globally. Our next awardee is another professor, Professor Frank Chinigwando, MBE. So the Windrush Nation Awards recognizes renowned consultant urologist Professor Francis Chinigwando, MBE. In addition to treating patients, he is a widely published researcher, lecturer, and professor. His charity work includes chairman of Cancer Black Care. He was recognized with an MBE in 2013 for services to the NHS. Professor Chinigwando has accrued a wealth of experience and expertise and obtained a Master of Surgery degree and a Master of Medical Law. He is a Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons and a Fellow of the European Board of Urology. Professor Chinigwando is currently Urology Lead at Newham University Hospital, Barts Health NHS Trust, and past Chairman of the Prostate Cancer Advisory Group. Professor Chinigwando. Yes, sir. Congratulations. Pleasure. Okay, I'm going to invite up again Colleen Amos. She's going to collect an award for her sister. I don't know if any of you saw the news clip where her sister was in the parade of the Knights of the Garter recently. So let me read you Baroness Valerie Amos's citation. The Windrush Nation Awards recognizes Valerie Baroness Amos, who, with her sister Colleen, turned their passion for education and tackling underachievement into the catalyst for founding the Amos Bursary, and in the process has transforms the lives of hundreds of young people of British, African, and Caribbean heritage. Baroness Valerie Amos is further recognized as the first black person to be appointed to the Order of the Garter by HRH Queen Elizabeth II. Not the first black woman, not the first black woman, the first black person. Anyone, okay. She is also the first black person to become a cabinet minister. Baroness Amos was previously made a companion of honor in the Queen's birthday honors. Thank you so much. Please pass on our best wishes to her.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
I'm delighted to be joined now by Colleen Amos, OBE, one of the recipients of the Windrush Nation Awards from tonight. Colleen, welcome to Live Radio UK.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
First of all, your opinions, your views on the awards tonight and the old gathering altogether.
It's been an amazing evening. I think what I've really enjoyed about it is the stories that have been told.
Yes.
About the older generation, but the fact that the story has been carried through and it incorporates the young people. For me, the Windrush is very much about, yes, we have to celebrate the past, but we must make sure that our young people are really ingrained in what we do as the future.
We read out part of your citation that you and your sister, Baroness Amos, started the Amos Bursary. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about the bursary, what it does and how it came into being.
Okay, so my parents passed away together in 2008, and they were, for us, phenomenal parents, but they were also very special to our extended family, and particularly to a lot of our friends. Their home was always open house for our friends, and they were both in education. So both my parents were qualified as teachers, but my mum moved away from actual teaching and she worked for the local education authority. My father remained in teaching, and he became head of sixth form in a school in Kent. So when they passed away, our friends and family just said, you know what, you need to do something to celebrate their life as some kind of tribute. And so it just seemed to us naturally to think about what they were passionate about. And they were passionate about education, both of them. And we would have very long discussions at the dinner table, talking about education, talking about the challenges that young black men face, talking about racism. All of those things were very important. So when they passed away, it just seemed a very natural decision to identify a group of young men who were of African and Caribbean descent, who were very academically able, but came from challenging backgrounds. And what we wanted to do was to almost give them the skills that they would have learned if they'd gone to an independent school.
Right.
And it was all about preparing for us the future generation of leaders. It was about changing the narrative that existed that time around young men in the community. So we identified these 7. It was just going to be 7 young men that we stayed with, and they almost became a fabric of what we did. What we also did was to provide them with mentors. We had a very structured development program, which was delivered by all of my friends, and I'm very pleased to say that some of them are here today supporting me. So it was about the development that they would need and the skills that they would need to ensure that as they moved on in the different transition stages of their lives, they were prepared. So year 12 and year 13, to ensure that they were ready to select the universities of their choice and that they were prepared to make the most of the opportunities when they went to university. And then moving on from there, when they were at university, it was about making sure that they were making the most of opportunities and that they were preparing themselves for internships so that they could stand out in those work environments. Because we know that for most corporate organizations, they will select the students that will ultimately work with them through students who had done internships with them for 1 or 2 years.
Right. You said it was meant to be 7. How much has it turned out to be?
That's the question. Oh my days.
Hundreds.
It's so if I look at today, 2024, we have something like 60 young people who are in our scholars program.
Right.
And those young people are the ones who we called for interview and who were successful at interview. So these are our 2024 cohort. We then have our students who are associates. And the associates are those students who were called for interview but were not successful. And so in that cohort, we have something like 30 students. This year, we had over 850 applications for just those 90 places.
Wow.
So what we decided to do in 2021, when we saw a real spike in the number of applications, was to set up what we call the Progressive Online Program. It's an online program to support those students. So of the 850 that applied, I'd say about 100 of them didn't make the grades or lived outside of borough. All of the others, we've given them the opportunity to join the Progressive Online Network Program, where we do a reduced program and it's all done online.
Right. And of those who have gone through the system, gone on to internship and employment, just one or two. Where are they? Where did they end up?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so at the moment we've got 143 who've actually graduated and are now working. Mm-hmm. So we've got about 3 of them who are entrepreneurs who all went to university. They are now all running multi-million pound businesses. So very, very proud of them.
Colleen Amos, thank you so much for sharing those insights with us, and congratulations on your award tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by another of tonight's Windrush Nation Awards recipient, Professor Kevin Fenton, CBE. Professor, thanks for joining us here on Life Radio UK. Just get your reaction, first of all, to the award and to the old Windrush Nation gathering, Thanksgiving gathering tonight.
Well, you know, it's so wonderful to be here tonight and this evening on Windrush Day. It's a special day when we're both reflecting on and thinking about the legacy and the contributions of that original generation to this country, but also to celebrate and reflect on the progress that we've made.
Yes.
And tonight meeting so many wonderful colleagues, people from our community, and listening to the pride and the joy and the communion that we had has just been special.
Yes. And overall, when you think of the Windrush Nation and what has happened since '48, how do you think we've done over that time?
So, you know, in the work that I do as a public health specialist, I'm always looking at global migration, how people move and how health, well-being changes as a result of that migration and movement. And I think the story of the Windrush generation is an interesting one because we had a particular cohort of people from the Caribbean who traveled over, who had very challenging experiences in those early years. And we see the legacy of some of those challenges living on in generations today, both positively and negatively. So I think for the generation that came and that had such a fundamental role in building our society, I think we've done so much and accomplished so much. And the challenge is, how do we continue to pass on that legacy, a positive one, to our children and our grandchildren?
Absolutely, thank you. And you were born in Glasgow.
I was.
But you were brought up in Jamaica. How was that transition for you from Glasgow to Jamaica?
You know, they say when you move once in your life, once you've done a big move, all subsequent moves are a lot easier. I left Glasgow when I was about 2 years old. My parents went back to the Caribbean, and then I came back after medical school. So I've had the privilege of moving back and forth across the Atlantic. And I tell you one thing, you know, the concept of home truly is where the heart is. And I can arrive in London and I can be here in the UK and feel at home. But I'm so privileged to be able to travel back to the Caribbean and feel equally at home on the streets of Kingston, on the beaches of Montego Bay.
Yes.
I can call that home as well. And that gives both a sense of pride, but also a sense of grounding as well.
Yes, and you went to university, started there in the University of the West Indies.
That's right.
But you changed. You changed discipline.
Yes.
What prompted you to make that switch?
Well, in those days, you could get into medical school directly from high school. And I was accepted for medical school, but had a year off to do natural sciences. So I started off doing computer science. And perhaps had I known how big it would have been, I probably would have stayed in computer sciences. Although having said that, I did medicine, and my medical specialty brings my mathematical and love of data and analysis that I had as a computer scientist into medicine as an epidemiologist.
Yes.
So now I study infections, I study diseases, I track them, I know how to control them.
Right, okay.
So I haven't lost it all.
Okay, good. And so now you did some work at the hospital there in Lucy.
I did.
In Hanover. And so whenever I go there to see my father, I would look at the hospital again and say, oh yes, this is the place. And so you did a lot of work in public health there as well. So public health, what was happening in the health service, if there was such a thing in Jamaica, that was prompting you know what, I need to be over there. I need to be in that part of the field, looking at public health.
It's such a really interesting story because in the first week in medical school, in all medical colleges, one of the things that the medical schools do is that they introduce you as a new student to professors and lecturers, people who are in different medical specialties. And in my first week at UWI, University of the West Indies, we met people who were working in public health. And they told us the story of how, as a physician, you could not only treat one person at a time, but you can improve the health of millions at a time, of societies, of communities.
Yes.
And how you do that, not by giving them medicine, but by changing policies, by changing the environment, by investing in education or good quality jobs. And I'll never forget that first week in medical school, how that changed my perception of what medicine is and how I could practice.
Yes.
Now I have another good story, which is the Lucy story, which is after medical school, I had a chance to be the medical officer of health in Hanover. And Lucy was about a 20-minute drive from my grandmother's house, which is in Kendall, Cessnock area up in the hills of Hanover. So I still have to this day memories of doing my 9 to 5 at Lucy Hospital, driving up to have dinner with my grandparents. Some of the most special memories of my time in Jamaica before coming here.
You did some work at the CDC. Share a little bit of your insight into that assignment.
From Lucy, I came to the UK and I spent 10 years here to my postgraduate training, became a consultant, and I had been appointed the head of HIV and sexually transmitted infections for the UK here. And then I was recruited to work for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta in the US government. And I was, at the time, the most senior non-US citizen working in the US government. And I had the privilege of working for the last 4 years of President Bush and the first 4 years of President Obama. And really overseeing the domestic and global program for HIV for the United States. So it was an amazing, nearly 10 years in the US. And I think what it showed me was, number one, a different system and how they manage the challenge of infectious diseases. Two, CDC is a powerhouse of science. And so for me to be able to do good research, good science, and to make a difference. And three, working in the US means that you have to work with communities and you have to understand inequalities, community mobilization. And because of my experience in the US, it really did a lot to prepare me for my work in the UK and of course the COVID response as well.
Of course. And have you found over those three continents any commonalities in terms of public health or failings and so on?
Great question. In all countries, we tend to think that what drives health is the hospital. And the focus that we often have is on hospital treatment and care, rather than understanding that actually health is generated in homes, within family units, within communities. by having a home, a healthy home, having a family that support and love you, having neighbors who you can trust.
Yes.
And as we heard, even tonight in Windrush, a community that supports you along your journey. So most systems, whether in the Caribbean, in the US, or here in the UK, we focus on the NHS, but we don't focus on how do we prevent people from getting unwell, and how do we help people when they are unwell to manage themselves to get better.
Yes.
And we need to do more of that for systems to be sustainable, right? We're seeing the pressures now on the NHS. They're having the same pressures in the US as well. So more and more, especially after their experience in COVID, we now understand the importance of prevention, early intervention, community support, community engagement.
Yes.
As a key part of what we need to do.
Yes. And during COVID, did you find that your message was received, because the black community suffered, disproportionately. Did you find that your message was received better by them because it's coming from someone of their own? I don't know, that's anecdotal, but
I think so. In fact, I know that. The amount of people, even this evening, in the event, who said, listen, every time you were on the radio, we listened to what you had to say. Not only because you were speaking as a senior scientist, but because we knew that you were speaking as one of us.
Right.
And also your values, your tone, the way you spoke really resonated with us. So there's something about our lived experiences as people of color that allows us to perhaps have more empathy.
Yes.
To understand the real world lives that people are living and the challenges that they have. And to be able to speak to some of those as well.
Okay. Well, Professor, thank you very much indeed. Professor Kevin Fenton, a recipient of the Windrush Nation Award. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
All right. I'm pleased to be joined now by Patrick Vernon, OBE. And just for context, today is the 22nd of June, 2024, Windrush Day. And my next guest had a lot to do with the day being adopted by the UK government in 2018. Patrick, welcome to Life Radio, sir.
It's a pleasure. I know you've been trying to track me down for ages.
Oh, listen, man.
But I'm here now.
First of all, your impression on the evening, the award, and the gathering all together.
I mean, there are lots of events, as you know, connected with Windrush Day today. I know when Dwayne had his vision around built on the concept of Thanksgiving Day, and this is an extension of Thanksgiving Day, where it's great that you've honoured me and the other honorees for our work supporting the community in our different professions and occupations. But also it's about coming together. So I think what you're doing here is really, really important. It's really, really special.
You led this campaign. How big was your team?
Well, it was a team of the willing.
Right.
I mean, we had no funding, no resources for when you do campaigns, you don't get funding for campaigns. But I have to acknowledge that the idea of Windrush Day came from Sam King.
Right.
Who was serving in the Second World War, came on the Windrush ship. He kept in contact with a number of the passengers on the Empire Windrush ship, and they formed the Windrush Foundation with Arthur Torrington. And obviously, in the early days, it was just those people that were living in South London coming together. And then I think when it came to the 60th anniversary of Windrush in 2008, it was like nothing happened. 50th anniversary, big events. Mike and Trevor Phillips did their TV programme and book. There were Terry Jarvis did a big concert on BBC TV. 60th anniversary, diddly squat, nothing. So after I made a documentary about one particular elder serving in the Second World War, I wrote an article in the Guardian newspaper, which is still online, by the way. I wrote this around 2010. And I said, why can't we have a public holiday called Windrush Day? We have, in America, they've got Labour Day, they've got Martin Luther King Day. There's nothing to celebrate our contribution to Britain, and also how Britain has changed since the Second World War in terms of migration. So when I wrote this article, I got approached by various people saying, why can't we campaign for National Windrush Day? So I worked with a whole range of organisations. In the early days with Windrush Foundation, worked with, and actually Sam King himself endorsed the idea for the campaign, which is quite important. I worked with British Futures, worked with Runnymede Trust, OBV, lots of church organisations, especially a lot of church organisations were supporting this. And what we used to do every year, we launched it officially around about 2012, 2013, and every year we would go down to Windrush Square in Brixton and have 2-minute silence, recognising the men and women that served in our great wars, recognising our contribution to public life, NHS, etc. So we did that for a number of years, actually. And one of those years, that's when Nubian Jack launched his memorial around the African-Caribbean contribution as well. So, and then in 2018, we had the Windrush scandal. And because we'd done all the work, and actually I'd already approached number 10 already, ahead of the Windrush scandal in 2017, to say, what are you going to do around the 70th anniversary? So before the scandal actually broke. So we were having various meetings. Lord Bourne, who's the Minister for Faith, was convening meetings to explore what can we do to celebrate Windrush's 70th anniversary. At the time, I said, just name it and just make it official. But people were skirting around, etc. Then when the scandal broke, and when Theresa May apologised, I think even though the government adopted Windrush Day, they adopted it for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
And that's why today Windrush Day is a combination of fighting for injustice as well as commemoration. And that's because the government adopted Windrush Day to take cover.
Yes.
And
yes.
So for example, I've been working with a number of organisations. We've launched a Windrush manifesto over the weekend about righting the wrongs of the Windrush scandal. But we don't call it the Windrush scandal now, we call it the Home Office scandal.
Absolutely, yes.
Because as long as you call it the Windrush scandal, then you've missed out the 99% of the contribution of the Windrush generation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think what needs to happen now for the next generation, if we're going to continue Windrush Day, say for the next 20, 30 years and beyond, up to 2048, which is the 100th anniversary of the Windrush docking, I'm hoping that some of the young people here tonight that came to this event, I can't continue. You can't.
No,
we've got to pass on.
Exactly.
We've got to create the space for them to.
Exactly. Yes, and certainly I know you did. Again, you spearheaded 75. You're now looking to 100. Certainly, we here are looking to just fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
In those other years, keep the Windrush Nations Award going.
Yeah, yes.
So and point people forward to the next big thing that's going to be happening and so on. It's a team effort, as you say.
It certainly
Absolutely. But thank you for the part that you're playing.
I want to acknowledge the work that you're doing and the Reach Society, because I have so much respect for the work that you're doing, and you do it in a way that you're not beholden to funders or to government. You're independent.
Yes.
And that I'm a campaigner, activist. I'm independent. I'm not in the box. I'm not in any favour of anyone.
Yes.
And that's why people are happy to coalesce around this, because they know it's independence,
Yes.
it's self-determination, it's self-help, and that is part of the spirit and values of the Windrush generation.
Yes, indeed. Patrick Vernon, OBE, thank you so much for joining us here on Life Radio UK. And once again, congratulations on your awards
Thank
tonight.
you very much, and I'm going to put this on my mantelpiece.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Brilliant.
Okay, so thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank
All
you.
right, man. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
I'm delighted to be joined now by Professor Frank Chinigwondo, MBE, one of the recipients of the Windrush Nation Awards tonight. Professor, how was the award ceremony and the evening as a whole? What's your impression?
I absolutely loved the whole event, from recognizing the Windrush Day, assembling all these people who are descendants of the original Windrush generation to gather in one place and remember how we came to be here and what it is we're going to be passing on to the next generations.
Yes, indeed. Yes, glad to hear that. What does it feel like, Professor, to be part of this Windrush Nation?
Yes, well, I'm proud to be where I am. My parents would be the first generation, I guess you would call, of the Windrush generation. They came from Nigeria in the end of the 50s and settled here and brought myself and my siblings up with the hope that we would study and work hard and make something of ourselves.
Yes.
They imbued that spirit within us, which fortunately we took heed and we've done well in the society and are now passing that on, and those values from my parents that stemmed from Nigeria into the next generation. I think that those of us of African heritage equally share in the Windrush story. They may not have come across on the Empire
yes.
in 48. But in terms of their spirit of trying to better themselves and give themselves better opportunities that perhaps were available in their home countries and passing that on to the next generation, very many similarities between those that came from the West Africa and those that came from the Caribbean
Absolutely,
islands. So I think we all share in the Windrush generation.
Yes, absolutely. And Professor, your field, medical field, urologist, and as part of that, an area that many black men just don't pay enough attention to, prostate. What are you finding? What's going on with the black folks? Maybe you find it in the African people as well, the African men as well. Is it just a general man thing that they don't want to look into this area?
Yes, I think it's a general man thing. I'm particularly focused on black men. The reason being that black men have twice the risk of getting prostate cancer and twice the risk of dying from it. And so my work for the last 20 to 25 years is to try and do something about that. First of all, you have to get the data to show that what you think is actually the fact. So one of the things I did was the first one in the UK to publish the data that showed, yes, black men have twice the risk of getting prostate cancer. Why that is the case, we're still searching for the why, but we have to recognize that is the case. And myself and many others have been trying to make black men in particular aware of this, because if you're aware, you can go and do something about it.
Absolutely. And does it start at a particular age, or can it happen at any time?
Well, we used to say from the age of 40 onwards, but I'm coming across men in their late 30s now who are developing prostate cancer, particularly if they have a family history. In other words, their father or they've got brothers who've got prostate cancer. So the message that I'm giving to men is that they should start getting the blood test, the PSA blood test. I used to say from the age of 45, but in the last couple of years, I brought that down to the age of 40. From the age of 40, every single black man should be getting the PSA blood test from their family doctors, from their GPs.
I've started to mention that to my doctor. I'm type 2 diabetic, and so when they do that, I say, look, can you start to do the PSA for me as well? So I'm keeping an eye out on that.
One of the really important messages is that one of the reasons why men, maybe black men, have been reluctant to go to the doctors is because they fear a rectal examination. They don't like the idea of a doctor putting their finger into the back passage to feel the prostate. But the thing is, and the message nowadays is that actually there is no need for that. The blood test is far more accurate at giving you your risk. Actually, the Prostate Cancer UK charity has what they call a risk checker, where you go online, you put in your age, your ethnicity, and other factors, and it will give you your risk of having prostate cancer.
Okay, give that website again, please.
It's a Prostate Cancer UK. They have a risk checker, and I think something like 1 million men have already completed this and got their risk of prostate cancer. And once you know your risk, then you can do something about it. One of the tragedies that I see in my day-to-day job as a consultant urologist in London, one of the tragedies is when I see a man who's got advanced prostate cancer, because I know that I cannot cure that man. I can try this treatment and that treatment and keep the man going for many, many years.
Yes.
But ultimately, I cannot cure that man.
Right.
Whereas had they had the blood test early and got the diagnosis early, the cure rate is like high 90%, 98%.
Wow. It's good advice. Professor, thank you very much indeed. Professor Frank
Thank you very much.
Chiniwando, MBE, and Windrush Nation Awards recipient. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where it all begins. Life Radio.
I'm joined now by another of tonight's recipients, Mr. Louis Sadler. And Louis, glad to have you on board. Tell me about your impression of the award ceremony and just the fact that, you were nominated to receive this award.
Well, I am very humbled to be recognized as someone who has actually done something for the community or for someone within the communities. The award, as I see it, in recognition of other people like myself who has made a contribution, it's a very good thing. The award is something that I think was useful in the sense that other people who have not seen or heard of these people is able to recognize their existence. And I believe will help them who recognize to carry on looking at other people who have made a contribution to this. And also allow such people that they themselves could do something more than what they're doing and looking at the needs of others who needs help. I've always made the example of that and have this notion that all of us should plant that tree. As a Jamaican, as a boy, you pick mango, you climb mango tree, you steal mango, and you grow up, you're able to buy mango. But have you ever planted a mango tree? No. So I would say, well, it is very useful for you to plant one so that other children can climb on the tree and other people can buy from that tree the mangoes that is produced by that tree.
Yes, when I saw the citation that was sent in from the Association of Jamaicans UK, it talked about you being a builder and how you would use that skill to locate buildings that came to house people such as the WASP, the West Indian Social Service personnel, and others in the London area. So you are sowing that seed, and that seed has now been a home for other people to grow from there.
Absolutely. The notion that we should all plant that tree from whose branches others can pick the fruit, and then under whose branches others can come and shelter and take their ease.
Yeah.
It is very important that that tree is planted.
Tell me about your story then, your Windrush journey.
Well, I came to England September the 27, 1960 on this boat. And I came here, and fortunately for me, I came to my uncle who was my guardian and a friend as my uncle. So I was very fortunate in that I was able to come to a destination and a home that's already established. So I was fortunate than most other people, right? I got a job. I came, in fact, with an intention to do land surveying. But when I came here, because I did a course in the West Indies University of the West Indies, I do a 1-year course in land surveying. But when I came here, you had to have 3 A levels in order to pursue this course. I didn't have 3 A levels. I didn't even have O levels. So I got a job and I started to work. And then after 2 or 3 years, my family got disintegrated. My father and mother split, so I became the breadwinner for most of the time, So I started to work. I worked for 5 years in this warehouse, and then I started, after that I started selling central heating for a company whose friend was working for this company. And when I was selling central heating, I didn't know a lot about it, what I was selling. So I went and did a course in heating and plumbing in order to understand it. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. I was always interested in physical work. So after the course, I set up a business with another one of the employees and started off in the building trade, in doing central heating. And then people were asking, in those days you take out chimney breasts. People wanted the chimney breast take out, how to remove a partition or to decorate the room, and so there's an opportunity. So I went and did a course in building construction. And the rest is, I just carry on.
Right.
So I've been self-employed for the last 56 years. During that time, I had friends who were in the race struggle, who invited me in this 64, 65 to be part of this movement of the race struggle, and I became a part of it, right? And the need to assist other people became useful tool to use. I wouldn't say to acquire, because I think it's an inherent acquisition from my family, my father's days.
Right.
You know, that he was a local man, politician who helped everybody. He was a churchman who helped everybody, who followed the scriptural doctrine that you help those who can't help themselves.
Absolutely, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And those, you know.
And what about your children then, and the following generations?
I started late. My first daughter, I think, was in my late 40s. She's now 34, doing very well. And also, providing educational need was useful. So she went to private school and did very well. She got her master's in politics. I think she followed the family line in some of my family at home in politics. So that's what she does, and she's doing well. My youngest daughter is 17, and she also goes to boarding school. She also wants to do politics. So I think politics is part of the ingredients of the family tree.
Right. Okay. So in terms of your eldest daughter, where is she now, and what sort of line of work is she in?
She works in central government.
Okay.
In the political. I think she's more in the academic side of things.
Right.
You know, political research.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what she does. Yeah.
And so are you retired from the building work?
No, I don't have time to retire.
Okay.
And retirement is not something that I ever contemplate. Retirement is for people who have nothing to do.
Louis Sadler, I want to thank you so much for talking to us today. Recipient of the Windrush Nation Award for contributions to the black community here in the UK over many years, and from what you're saying, you've still got plenty of petrol in the tank, to keep going for more. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Well, that's it for this year. I hope you've been encouraged and will feel inclined to join us for next year's celebrations. The Windrush Nation Heritage is a partnership between Reach Society and Life Radio UK. Until next time, take care.